60 Minutes. Rewind.
Here in Israel, it has been one of the bloodiest weekends most Israelis have ever lived through, and in some ways, we've lived through it with them. In the midst of this bloody weekend, the Prime Minister, Ariel Sharon, took time out to explain to us why he launched the most massive military crackdown on the Palestinians in 20 years. The situation is so difficult that he went on Israeli television tonight to blame Yasser Arafat for directing and initiating the terror and to assure his people they will be victorious. In his news conference yesterday, President Bush condemned Arafat for the terrorism, but not Ariel Sharon for the retaliation. We spent a good part of yesterday afternoon with the Prime Minister at his farm in the heart of the country. He's been condemned around the world, the wisdom of his action questioned by those who wonder if he's thought this through. While we were talking, tanks were breaking down walls in Ramallah, and Yasser Arafat was effectively under house arrest without electricity for a while, giving interviews by flashlight. You have said that Arafat is the enemy. You have said in the past that you wished him dead, and you said that you made a mistake in promising President Bush that you wouldn't kill him.
Look,
is that what you want to do now? Do you want to rub him out, as we say?
We don't have any intention to hurt him physically.
What about expel him?
We have to consider all the possible ways that will enable us to uproot the terror.
You might expel him?
I don't know.
You're isolating him. For what purpose? What's the reason? What is this whole operation? You don't want to kill him.
Most of our casualties at the present time are casualties caused by organizations that are paid by him, like the Tanzim, and the purpose is to isolate him from giving all instructions or any other thing or any guidance to these organizations.
Have you been able, since this operation started, to pick up any communications he's had? Has he been giving orders?
Look,
either to continue the terrorism or to stop the terrorism?
It's a different situation now. Once he is isolated, it's a different situation now. He cannot have all those meetings with the commanders that were in charge of the most terrible assassinations and murder. It makes it harder.
Mr. Sharon read from a list of suicide bombings since the recent Palestinian uprising began in September 2000.
Just look at the numbers. I'll take from the Dolphinarium, 21 killed, 120 injured. I'll take these restaurants, Bar in Jerusalem, 15 killed, all civilians. In another event in Jerusalem, 11 killed, 180 injured.
I don't think anybody denies that Israel has suffered a series of horrendous suicide attacks. But is what's happening now playing into Arafat's hands? Here he is, this one man, holed up in this little place without electricity. All he has is a phone and a machine gun.
You don't have to worry about that.
Here he is, he's David, you're Goliath, and this big mighty power is coming after him. Are you playing into his hands? That's what I'm asking.
I would have expected the world not to look with such mercy at somebody who is responsible for all this suffering, but to look at the victims. I must tell you, for me, it's harder to watch those two baby girls that were left alone when their parents were killed just a few days ago. Why the world is not shocked by that? Why the world is not shocked by that?
In the last couple of months, there have been pregnant Palestinian women, Palestinian children, innocent civilians on the other side that have also been killed in these crackdowns. What do you feel about that?
I feel very bad about that. As a soldier for many years, I know that in battles, in wars, sometimes civilians are killed or hurt. And every casualty is a tragedy. But you have to remember one thing. It's not a war that we started.
Has the situation come down to a personal vendetta between you and Yasser Arafat? There are those in Israel and in the United States who feel that you are so angry with him, you hate him so much, that it's affecting your decision-making.
The answer is no. Just no.
Well, what do you think of him?
Nothing personal.
You hate him.
Look, may I tell you something? I don't hate anyone. Don't hate anyone. I see the victims. Our victims, their victims, and I know who is responsible for that. It's nothing to do, there is no any hatred, it's beyond any hatred. It's not a personal thing.
Colin Powell, just the other day, said, Arafat, I'm quoting him, Arafat is the leader of the Palestinian people. His leadership is more central than ever. He said that after your operation started. When this is over, aren't you going to have to go and deal with him again? He's the leader.
Arafat is the main obstacle to peace in the Middle East. The main obstacle to peace. I don't think that we have to deal with him anymore.
You don't think you have to deal with him anymore?
No, I don't think so.
Can you name one Palestinian who could replace Arafat, who's strong enough to stop the suicide bombers?
I'll tell you, I believe that there are many.
Can you name even one?
No, I'm not going to name. I'm not going to name.
The military operation is now 3 days old, but the guns and the tanks have not stopped the suicide attacks. A bombing at a restaurant in Haifa today, at least a dozen dead. Last night, it was this cafe, a crowded cafe right here in downtown Tel Aviv. You still see people out on the streets, but more and more Israelis are afraid to leave their homes, to go to family events like weddings, to go shopping, to go out to eat. Despite the United Nations resolution calling on Sharon to withdraw the forces, he says defiantly that this military operation will go on for a long time, at least several weeks.
The Jews are having the right and the capability to defend themselves by themselves. That is our duty. We have to defend our lives.
Let me quote something you've said. You said this on March 4th. The aim, this is the aim of Israeli policy, is to increase the number of losses on the other side. Only after they've been battered will we be able to conduct talks. And this is a policy of bludgeoning. Do you really think that
Tell you something. I saw this quoting.
Is that not an accurate quote of you?
It's not exactly the accurate one.
Is that not your policy, though? Increase the number of losses on the other side?
May I tell you something? Our policy is not to cause, I would say, to inflict heavy casualties on them. Our goal is to arrest, first of all, to arrest. If we would have wanted to cause them heavy casualties, that's the easiest thing to do.
When you talk about destroying the infrastructure of terrorism, and you go after the Palestinian Authority, I mean, that is actually the Palestinian government.
We are not acting against the Palestinian Authority.
You've smashed their walls. You've broken down into the compound.
Look, we smashed the walls because that was the place where instructions and orders were given for murder and killing. That's what is important, for murder and killing. We found there big quantities of weapons. As a matter of fact, a weapon that they are not allowed to keep. They are not allowed to keep anti-tank weapons. They are not allowed to keep mines.
And they were in this compound.
Yes.
You're in Ramallah. Where else does this go?
I say that we are going to uproot the basis of the terrorist organizations, their supporters.
Hamas?
Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front.
So what you did in Ramallah, we're going to see replicated in other places.
I think we have to not to talk about that now. But I said it's very clear, if we are going to do that, and that not in order to postpone peace, but in order to enable to reach peace.
But if you round up 1,000 people, you round up 5,000 people, it only takes one suicide bomber to kill a lot of Israelis. Can you ever exhaust the supply of these suicide bombers?
There are two possibilities here. One is not to do anything and just to have daily killings. And the other way is to try and act again with the hope that that will be reduced, that the number will be reduced. And you have to know that due to our activities, we managed in the last couple of weeks to stop or arrest 25 attempts of suicide bombers, or maybe even more than that, that were on their way to act in Israel. In 2 weeks, 25.
Do you feel that you have full U.S. backing for this military action?
I don't think so. I never asked any support for that. I think the present administration, it's maybe one of the most friendly, if not the friendly, administration that I remember for many years now. But we have not got any green light.
Sharon says Mr. Bush understands the threat to Israel posed by countries in the axis of evil, including Iran.
Iran is declaring that their goal and targets is to eliminate the state of Israel and eliminate the Jewish people.
He says Iran has formed an alliance with Arafat, sent rockets to Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, and
are working more and more among Israeli Arabs. We have, in this country, we have 5 million Jews, and we have 1 million Palestinians who are Israeli citizens.
And you're saying Iran is now working with them?
Yes, involved, and their involvement becoming deeper and deeper. They are doing that mostly through the Islamic movement. There were suicide bombers, one that acted.
The Arab summit, as you well know, all the Arab countries have agreed to recognize Israel if Israel will go back to the 67 borders. Is this something that is a good beginning for a negotiation? Is this something that you can grab onto and build onto and use as a jumping off point?
It's important. Let's say it's important. But now we have to see what are the details there.
If President Bush were to take the Arab summit, the Saudi plan, and invite all the Arab leaders and you to come to the United States to talk about that plan, would you go?
Yes, of course.